Hey, everybody, and welcome to My Socially Speaking. As you already know, I'm your girl, Sunny J, and this is my YouTube channel. This is where we address societal, social, speaking issues. Today, I have a very heartfelt topic to lightly explore with you. It's very serious and it could be a little emotional. It's definitely emotional for me. So just be mindful, it could be emotional for you. And at the end, I'll make some recommendations if you do feel emotional. I'll make some recommendations for things you can do to help balance yourself out and return back to your center, or at least a comfortable mindset. What I wanted to talk about today is a very alarming issue that occurred earlier this week. I apologize, I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, but I received a message on my news feed that a woman named Doreen King, who was a 57-year-old casework supervisor for the Department of Children's Services in New Jersey, had shot herself at work. As we know, this is Socially Speaking, and these are the very types of topics I try to discuss and explore beforehand or even after or during. It's always best practice to try to practice prevention so we don't have to practice intervention. Many of you know I always say that I've worked in the social work sector for 2 decades. It's actually 25, but I always just say 2 because I worked in the social service arena 5 years before I actually received my credentials. So I just kind of go with the 20 years because that's how long I've had my credentials. But this very same or similar issue is pretty much what prompted me to write my book, Social Work Drama, and it entails and depicts a lot of what can encourage a worker on any level in the mental health field to become overwhelmed, inundated, depressed, addicted to whatever alcohol, sex, drugs, money, power. And it's especially crucial because people in the mental health field are the people. Mental health practitioners, social workers, people in the mental health field are supposed to be the people you go to take care of you mentally, psychologically, spiritually, and psychiatrically. So if us mental health professionals are not professional or unstable, that's a crisis. That's super serious. And I know we've been desensitized to the mass murders, the shootings, and the suicides. I mean, the stats prove there's like 40,000 suicides just in the United States alone, and it's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. And while I'm remembering, I want to mention the suicide hotline number is 1-800-273-TALK. I'm not sure of the specifics. I did read the story twice about this woman who committed suicide, shot herself at work. I read the story twice. I was trying to get some more information on her, but all I could gather was that she was a service supervisor, a case worker supervisor for the Department of Children's Services in, it was Paramus or Hackensack. They're so close. Um, and she had been working there for a decade. The backhand story, the complete story of her, I haven't been able to obtain as of yet. And I find that very, very disturbing also, because whether I'm a social worker or not, that's, or anybody that passes away is very, very significant, or anybody that commits suicide is very significant. But it's just alarming to me. I just felt like it should be bigger news, and maybe just because of my background. But I think we all should be alarmed at the people, by the people who are caring for us. The story that I read was trying to imply or state that she, or that social workers are so overwhelmed with the children's services, caseworkers are so overwhelmed with the cases that they have to handle with the children, that that stresses them out and possibly stressed her out so much until she shot herself at work. I'm not buying that. I'm sure it's a lot more in the social work field. And then the article also touched a little bit on how there's a whole bunch of demand for paperwork that you must produce. And it also implied that the paperwork is more important than the people. And that is true. I mean, there's tons of issues that need to be repaired in the social work sector, and that is one, to, and there's a lot of professions that you are expected since the recession in 2009, a lot of professions where there's one person now doing the job that actually three people used to do. And social work obviously is no different, and I'm sure that it's just common practice in the social work field to also take care of the client and the patient, but also there's an astronomical amount of documentation that's expected, and that documentation has to be very explicit, and it has to be professional and concise in a very short period of time. And you are working with tons of people with all types of distraught situations, all sorts of crisis and trauma. And the first order of business as a social worker is self-care. And I know that some social workers feel like that's a very impossible task, because there's some social workers that give a lot to the field and just give and don't take time for themselves. But that's crucial. That's number one in the business. I don't know Miss Kane, and I don't know if she even had the opportunity to care for herself or even took the opportunity. I don't know if she already had a pre-existing mental health condition. Of course, we know when she pulled that trigger, or decided to pull that trigger at work, or get the gun, when she got the gun, when she contemplated and created her plan, we know that a mental illness had already formed in that moment. Whether or not she had already been previously clinically diagnosed, I'm not sure. But I have not worked in the child service sector, but I have worked with children in and out of foster care for differing agencies. And I can only imagine how traumatic it is to see a child repeatedly and to have to supervise people that have to work that way. And when I say that way, I mean with children who could be difficult, grandparents, you work with parents that are difficult, or maybe not difficult, but they're in challenging situations themselves. I just don't buy the story that she was so overwhelmed with the stories and the children's situations and the family situations overwhelmed her, and that's what led her to the suicide. That's what the article stated. And the article is on Google. It's a Jersey paper. And again, it's Paramus, New Jersey, or Hackensack, where this happened. Um, that's one of the issues that I constantly bring up. I just got a feeling that that it wasn't only the traumatic stories that she had to witness, but not knowing her, but just having worked in the field, I just feel like obviously there's more. And many times when you work in these situations, I was a supervisor 3 times in my career. And I'm just trying to understand without even, know. And you know what? I already know the field and I know people. So I don't even have to know directly exactly the people, because actually you'll get a better assessment of what happened without even really most of the time talking to people, because unfortunately people have a deep-seated tendency to tell you a lie before they tell you the truth. Actually, people are much more inclined to believe a lie before they'll believe the truth. But something is making me wonder if she, as a supervisor, was experiencing a lot of insubordinate staff, if she had received a lot of pressure from, and not to condone her suicide or to say I agree with it, but I know some people feel if somebody said to her, your job is in jeopardy, if one of her superiors suggested or implied her job was in jeopardy, or told her, you better have this mountain of work done in this unfathomable amount of time that's impossible. I don't know her, but I don't know if those things may have led her to get a gun, shoot herself at work. That's pretty severe. And I shouldn't even have to say that's pretty severe. Everybody should feel like, taken aback and want to know what happened to this woman who I believe she's been a supervisor or a social worker for 35 years, and she was 57 years old. So, having been a supervisor myself in the social work sector, I have had directors and supervisors demand me to complete certain work, certain documentation in an impossible time frame. And not just me, but co-workers. And then you have to impress that on your staff. And then staff sometimes are so unprofessional, so unruly, you have to deal with your own paperwork, your own documentation, and you can have 10 to 20 people you're overseeing that are challenging you, the staff. And then you got to deal with the psychiatric, the chemically addicted, whatever capacity in social work you're working with. And that's a major conflict, major. And I mean, I've always practiced a ton of self-care, always traveled, always relaxation methods, always deep breathing. I've always gone to a spa, manicures, pedicures, whatever it is for me that I knew would relax me, rest and sleep and prayer. I've always put those things in practice first. But I'm one of the few that I believe really do that. Well, let me say one of the few people that I know. Most people in the mental health arena that I know, that I've known, really don't do those things. I mean, people, a manicure, pedicure they might like, or vacationing, but there's, it's just not enough self-care that you could practice to save yourself and keep yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, and I am not exaggerating, and psychiatrically stable. It's a lot. It's a lot. Even the company that you keep, people that you surround yourself with. Most people, I think people are getting better with this, but many people don't keep company with people that they love and trust. Much of the time, people keep company with people that they are struggling to tolerate. And that's very, very unhealthy. And I don't know this woman. And again, I don't know her history, but I get the feeling that it wasn't only her being at work and hearing the traumatic stories of her clients that led her to bring a gun to work and shoot herself at work. I wonder if she was really trying to send a message or trying to hurt other people that have possibly hurt her, because we know hurt people hurt people. This is a woman that should be commended for working in the field for so long. And again, with respect to the fact that a lot of people in the field are in the field because it's a reasonably easy field to get into for some people. So you need to be a heartfelt social worker, but many people are not. And it doesn't need to be a field where if you have a mental health issue that you're hiding in the field because you have a mental health issue. So you feel like I could help other people, or maybe I could live and survive better if I work in a mental health community. Now, if you're working for an agency that specifically caters to staff with mental health issues and it's encouraged, and that's what the agency is about, that's different, of course. Then this is welcomed and is supported and promoted, and that's fine. But when you are working with just a standard mental health agency and then you have a mental health issue yourself and you're not even addressing it, you're not even receiving treatment, and then you're working with other people, especially if you're supervising other people and you're unstable, that presents a major issue. So I don't know, again, what explicitly was Miss Doreen Kane's issue or issues that led her to go to work this week and shoot herself at work. I don't know, but I do know it was more than just hearing the stories of her clients, their sad and traumatized stories. And that's why and I'm going to always bring to the forefront, always encourage us to take a deeper look, because this is our society and we're a part of it. The things that happen to one can happen to somebody else. And I'm just trying to encourage people to care. And I know you can't make somebody care. Pretty much, to be honest with you, if somebody doesn't care, you really can't make them care. You can't. Just like you can't change anybody. Only God can change someone. But I still want to heighten your awareness. And that is what my channel is about. And I'm still going to discuss it, those sensitive issues, because I think we ignore them all too often and we don't pay enough attention. And you might think, oh, it doesn't affect me. I'm not a social worker. It doesn't have anything to do with me. But it does, because it's society. And who knows? You may know someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone who was affected by the work that she's done. And even if we weren't, she's still a human being. We're human beings. And we should care about one another. And not only when there is an atrocity. We need to care about each other every day. I'm not saying care about other people more than you care about you. No. But we do need to care about one another more. And I'm not only talking about care about your friend. I mean, care about humankind. Care about someone else. If you have a good piece of advice to share, to give, a kind word, a warm gesture, a loving embrace, if you have it, give it, share it. And then if you don't, that's okay, but don't cause extra harm or drama towards somebody. If you're at work and there's somebody there you don't care for, you don't particularly like, don't go that extra mile being mean to the person. Don't go the extra mile doing something harsh or holding back or trying to get them in trouble. Don't do that. Because I promise you, God is watching and it will come right back to you. And no, it's not karma. There's no such thing as karma. It's just God. So It might sound like an old saying, God don't like ugly, but he really doesn't. And that includes me too. Me, you, everybody. So let's try to, even if it's remotely, slightly, just a little bit, let's try to be kinder to one another. Let's try to embrace each other. And even if it is somebody that you have in your life that you truly care for, try to show them a little bit of extra love. And it only takes a little bit of something, just a little bit, because there's more of Doreen Kane out there. There's more. And not only in the social work sector. I know that drama isn't only in the social work jobs. I know that. I know regular jobs. It's just, again, it's just very significant to me because that is the field where you go for someone to take care of you emotionally. So I think that's very impressionable that you go to someone to take care of you emotionally and that person's not emotionally stable. That's very concerning. So I want you to pay attention to people that you do go to for help. Pay attention to the mannerisms, the speech, the behavior of people that you go to that are counselors in the school, teachers, social workers. I mean, there's nothing you could probably do about the teacher unless you take your kid to a different class or a different school. But caretakers are supposed to be people that are balanced. Caretakers mental health caretakers are supposed to be people with integrity, people with morals, uh, leaders, caring people, authentic people, genuine. There's a genuineness. There's a warmth. They need to be warm and inviting. So pay attention to people who you go to, or who you send your children to, that are their supposed mental health caretakers. Again, there's guidance counselors in the schools, um, social workers in schools, and your academic advisor. If you go to them for advice, I know certain schools you still can use your academic advisor for assistance. But if you even go for mental health treatment, if you go to address a chemical dependency issue, if you have a stimulant use disorder or some form of trauma, you're going to someone for, pay attention to that person and pay attention to the words they say, the way they are kept, because a mental health practitioner should be what they encourage you to be. Grooming and hygiene should be up to par. They should be able to articulate themselves respectfully towards you, and they should be non-judgmental. You should be able to feel that from them, and educated. So, because if your practitioner isn't helping, they could be hurting. And in many cases, if they're not helping, then it's a possibility that they're hurting. So I don't want us to hurt each other to the best of our ability. I want us to stay woke, and stay enlightened and assist each other. And just, pay attention and do the best that you can do. Don't be cavalier about your mental health or about the people you keep company with, or even if you know someone that has a mental health therapist, you could ask them, how's your therapist? What are they like? Try to see if you can find out and just make sure that they're professional and that they're doing well, to the best of their ability. I'm just saying, just let's check in with each other, because you just don't know. It's not those people at Doreen Kane's job are saying that they're surprised that she came to work and shot herself, and that she joked about how much work she had to do, and joked about how much the work was overwhelming. Pay attention to things like that. Some people do say things and then they say it in a humorous way, and that sometimes is a symptom of a plan of suicide. Not all the time, but it's just so ambiguous. It's very tricky. because you could just have just a regular friend saying, "Oh, I'm okay for today," and then you're like, "What do you mean for today? What about tomorrow? You don't have a plan for hurting yourself, right?" That's why we need to try to show one another some kindness, some consideration, some care. Because maybe if someone is planning on hurting themselves, maybe they could be candid and trust you and say, "Listen, I am thinking about it," and confidently, they want to talk to you about it or want you to go with them to get some help. So just look out for each other. And I just want to have a moment of silence for Miss Kane in respect to her and the work that she's done, because I know she was a social worker for a very long time, as reported. So let's just look out for each other, okay? And let's take care of each other. Thanks for spending your special quality time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And please adhere to the warm and loving message that I bring to you. I hope that you receive it the way I bring it. And remember, we literally have one another's heart in our hand. And until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much.